Dan, thank you so much for coming, man. This is a real pleasure.
No problem, man. No, literally, it's my pleasure. And when you reached out, I was so excited, and listened to the Duncan podcast, and he carries himself so well. You two together are brilliant, man. And I was like, yeah, I want to be on this. This is cool. And do you know what I was trying to work out a little bit? Sorry, I'm going straight off on
No.
I was trying to work out how I felt like I immediately had so much respect for you, and I was like, what do I feel like this is? And really tried to work it out. And I was just like, you're in the arena. You're in the arena, man. And I'm like, I've been in and out of the arena for a little while and trying to address this massive topic. And you're in there, man, and you've taken the big plunge. And I was like, the respect that I immediately gain is just so special. And it's like, I was so excited straight away. I was like, yes, get me on there, man. It's amazing. It's so courageous, bro.
Thank you. I've always been a big advocate of being open and honest especially about mental health. It's something that I've struggled with and I've spoken about in interviews and various guises in the past. And it's had such a positive impact on me. Because yourself. You will get onto your illustrious career. But from your rugby playing days, men just don't talk about this kind of stuff, and it gets swept to one side, and it has really damaging effects on men. So I just thought, creating I've always wanted to do a podcast anyway. But I thought to do something that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about helping, but I'm also really passionate about storytelling. I'm passionate about listening. I want to get to know people. I want to find out, what makes people tick.
Get into it. Yeah. Do you remember the first time you ever opened up? Do you remember the first time you ever thought, I've got to speak to someone? Yeah,
I do. I was at drama school in Cardiff, doing 3 years, and my first year went really well. Was smashing it. It felt great. Really super confident. They were giving me some nice work to do. I was improvising, and drama school's it's a mad old time anyway.
It's crazy, man. Yeah, my brother went to drama school. My brother was in the acting world, and it just seems crazy. The dance, the singing, the kind of so many vast personalities.
Yeah. So the first year went really well, and then I got to my second year and had my first panic attack. I didn't know at the time that it was a panic attack. I just thought I was having a heart attack.
Get the ambulance.
Yeah, exactly. But also, the kind of the sort of naivety and the ignorance around that. For me, I had no idea what I was dealing with, and I had no idea how long it would take me to get over.
Oh wow, scary, man, isn't it?
Oh mate, and it took me. I think it took me 6 months to get over my first panic attack.
Serious? Yeah. What? And then worried that it would reoccur?
No, I didn't. I didn't know what it was.
Right.
Like I thought I was going completely insane.
Yeah.
During that time, I was really like my confidence was shot to pieces. I was like, we'd have an improvisation set up. So we'd all be, all the students would be sat around and they'd say, right, Dan and James, up you get. And I'd sit there and I'd just shake my head and I'd just say, I just don't have it in me to get up.
Wow, really?
And if you can't perform in front of your peers, then something's wrong.
Is that like an empty, I feel like an empty, like, do you know when someone gets you to do that, is it just like the emptiness behind that of like, I can't, is it, do you know what I mean?
It felt like I was losing the plot because I'd always been someone since I was 8 years old. I'd always been someone that loved performing. I loved being in front of an audience. That was when I felt alive. The thought of being able to say things and articulate things and create characters and have people buy into that world and applaud was just something else.
It's something special, man.
From playing rugby
in a different way.
In a different way, but also it's a craft.
Performing, aren't you?
100%.
You're entertaining, I suppose.
Absolutely, it's entertainment. When you're bombing, when you're bombing down the wing, or you're taking out a player or whatever, and everyone's on their feet, and you're thinking, I'm all right at this.
Yeah, with a lot of adrenaline on top of that as well. Oh yes,
absolutely.
You're right.
So that was the first time. So on the back of that was the first time that I really felt like I had to open up and start to explain.
Right.
And I spoke to a few friends at the time and said, like, listen, I don't know what's going on. I was smoking quite a lot of weed back then as well, which, as we know now, through research and stuff, is a really, really bad thing for a lot of people for anxiety.
But it's a proper escape, isn't it?
Oh, 100%.
Like I feel like other drugs sometimes enhance things, but for a short period of time, cannabis gives you that real escapism, doesn't it? Like takes you to another world of ways where you're thinking a different way. And you can even justify that going, yeah, but it's opening my mind because you are thinking a different way. Sometimes it is really pleasurable, isn't it? I can relate to the cannabis thing. But yeah, we tell ourselves a story around it as well, don't we? With that drug in particular, it's a scary drug, man.
I always associated it with like Cheech and Chong and this kind of laid back kind of vibe, people chilling on the beach and the music that went along with the whole kind of weed culture. And some of that is true for some people, but the reality for me when I was 2021 was very, very different. I was getting back from a day at university at drama school, and just sort of shutting myself away and just smoking, and then wondering why. In hindsight, it's a wonderful thing, but I was, looking back, wondering why I was so unwell.
Yeah, man, and the spiral as well. Just because we're escaping it accumulates. Then we're going back into work, being asked to perform something low confidence spirals out of control, anxiety spirals to the point where probably the panic attack is like your body saying, help me out here, what are you doing? Like, why are we not addressing this, isn't it? It's like
enough's enough.
Yeah, man.
And that's kind of what happened with me.
Wow. Was cannabis your only real kind of, I call it an escapism, but some people it isn't. It's the intention behind it, isn't it? And I think for you in that moment, I think for me, our intention was definitely to get away from something we were feeling internally. Some people can use it recreationally. I admire them people in a way because it's the way they feel on it. If they can wake up the next day and feel great and not suppress their feelings in any way, amazing. But for me, man, yeah, it was a pure escapism.
I think you're right. I think it's so one of the biggest things that I've realised in the past 4 or 5 years since I've gone on my journey of self-healing, not just self-healing, self-awareness, I think is the biggest one for me, has been learning about myself.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've discovered is that I've never been very good in my own company.
Right, okay.
I'm fine socially,
but
I've never known what to do with myself when I'm on my own.
Yeah, okay.
I'm fine now, but historically I haven't enjoyed sitting with my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And there's probably deeper psychological, historical reasons behind that. But because of that, using cannabis, and then more recently it was alcohol. Was my big thing. Was just drinking. And I still drink now. I like a little drink now and again, of an evening or whatever. But I don't. It's not a crux. I don't rely on it anymore because I know who I am now, and I'm okay being me.
How did you start? I feel like I'm interviewing you.
It's fine,
bro. I want to find out about you. How did you start to? What was your catalyst? What was your catalyst for change? What was your big moment? What was your like?
I didn't have a big moment.
Did you not?
No, I didn't have a big moment. Yeah, some people hit what they call rock bottom.
Yeah, man.
And they have that epiphany of everything is fucked.
Yeah.
Like I need to fix everything. Whereas mine was over a process of months, probably a few years, of knowing in the back of my mind that I needed to change things.
Right.
And getting more and more frustrated with myself that I wasn't changing things. So those times where I might have enjoyed myself, so say I'd been out socially with friends and I got home and I'd carried on partying, those times were getting more and more depressing and more miserable.
The voice gets louder.
The voice gets louder. What are you doing to yourself? Why are you doing this? This is pointless. You're not even enjoying this. And then the shame and the regret the next day.
Definitely. And then the cycle. Man, I remember when I was like 16, 17, 18, desperate to become a rugby player. And I used to go out with my mates from sixth form and secondary school and stuff. And I used to go out and drink. I didn't really want to drink, so I wanted to become a rugby player. I was so fixated on that. I remember I used to run home. Everyone would get in a taxi. I'd be like, no, I need to run home. I need to burn off this alcohol. It was like I was already feeling the guilt. While I was drinking, while I was enjoying it, the guilt was kicking in. And I was like, I had to drink myself away from the guilt. And then as soon as everyone was going home, I was like, I had this rush of oh my God, what have I done? I'd run home. Sometimes I'd stop halfway and sit down and give myself a real drunk pep talk and be like, come on, man, you want to become a rugby player? What are you doing? There's alcohol is like a family curse for me. It's like my dad's side of the family. Dad's an alcoholic. He listened to my last podcast and didn't really like me saying that. But listen, I feel he's dependent on alcohol, and I don't mean that in a horrible way. I understand some of the reasons as to why he might drink. But yeah, my older brother dependent on alcohol. My little brother was dependent on drugs. My dad's two brothers that have passed away, alcohol induced, like fallen asleep, fag in the mouth, burnt the house down.
Jesus.
One of them drunk, drove off a cliff. Like heavy stuff, man. Heavy stuff. Like I feel like alcohol is a curse in my family, and I got caught up in it at one point, and then I was like, whoa, like I had this kind of step back and like I'm just pressing play to all this same stuff that's occurring generation on generation. I'm like, I feel like I can stop this. I always felt like this belief inside me, but I was like, unless I talk to someone, man, I ain't getting nowhere with this. Like I can't do this on my own. You cannot do it on your own, man.
No, you can't. You need some level of support. Be that a counsellor, be that a friend, be that somebody that you can lean on and have those difficult conversations and be open and honest about things.
Yeah. Do you know, I listened to my mate who's quite religious, and he said he does a prayer every morning. I'm not really into religion, right? But I thought, do you know what? I do a bit of meditation in the morning. I thought I'm going to just do a little prayer every now and then, and I would just try and let whatever comes to me. And honestly, man, I keep just praying for humanity. I'm like, I genuinely get so upset. Something so deep inside me just can't accept what's happening. I can't turn a blind eye to it. And if I do, and I start to, it's like what we were talking about for the podcast, that feeling of this don't feel right. And as soon as you asked me to come on the podcast, I'm like, this feels right. I'm excited already. This is follow the excitement, follow the passion. And for a while, I've kind of shut myself off from that and kind of gone inwards a little bit and done a little bit more healing or whatever we want to call it, a little bit self-reflection, awareness. And then when it was like perfect timing, I was like, yes, I'm ready to come out and talk about some of this fresh new stuff I've been uncovering. And I think it's so important, man. I think it's so important. And without podcasts, what would we be doing? How would we be getting this out here? We'd be on the streets with little banners and stuff.
It's funny hearing you talk. Actually, I can tell that you've done a lot of work on yourself for a number of reasons. When you agreed to come on this show, I obviously had a look into your life and your career, and I watched some of the interviews that you'd done when you were playing, and you speak so differently. I might be speaking out of turn, but when I watch interviews of you 10, 15 years ago speaking as a professional rugby star, let's not sugarcoat it. No, you were two Grand Slam titles.
Yeah,
that's huge, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah, it's real cool, man.
When I watch those interviews, you seem nervous. Yeah. You seem uncomfortable. Yeah. You don't seem assured, and a lot of them, you're only talking about rugby. You're talking about something that you know inside out and you're passionate about.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't have the assurance and the confidence that you have now sitting here. So you've obviously been on a huge journey.
Yeah, man. And when you mentioned the confidence thing, confidence for me, wow. I always had this thing around when I was young. And I was always, it's funny because it's around embarrassment. And it was always embarrassing for me to talk about embarrassment. And a massive thing for me growing up all throughout my school year, I used to go really red. I used to get really embarrassed, right? And the shame that comes with that. I don't know if you're a blusher or anyone listening. It sounds crazy for like a rugby player to be talking about this, but let's do it, man. Like the embarrassment side of things, the social anxiety that come with that, man. Like you would ask me to come on the podcast, and 4 days prior, I'd be going, what if he brings up this? What if he brings up this and I don't have an answer? And I go really red, and everyone, and I would go down these rabbit holes of like predicting the future based upon just becoming embarrassed. And there was so much shame around it, man. And I had to really realise that was how it was manifesting itself. Okay, I had a lot of shame inside of me for many different reasons. The root causes I had to get to a different way, but that's how it was presenting itself. It presents itself in different ways. I feel like, I don't know, my mum and dad splitting up when I was really, really young, and my mum kind of leaving in the middle of the night with us boys. Don't remember it, but I see a lot of behaviours which align with fear of abandonment and like intimacy issues and things that kind of arise around not wanting to get close to someone because I'm really scared I'll get hurt. And so really reverse engineering it and going, well, where has this behaviour come from? What, like, this isn't possible just to arise out of nowhere. And something my family don't really buy into, the fact that kind of like our earlier years affect us quite a lot. And I understand that kind of forces a bit of accountability. And if someone isn't ready to take accountability because of the pain and stuff it might bring up, I honour that and I'll back off. But understanding that for myself is really, really important. It is groundbreaking to understand, wow, okay, what I've been through shapes who I am. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person. Doesn't mean I'm this, I'm that. But let's go back and let's sit in this in a safe environment and feel this stuff, man. let's release it. Let's release this stuff that's stored in my body, affecting me. And the stuff you're seeing in them in earlier interviews, you can just see things stored in my body, stopping me from expressing myself in the way I want to express myself. You know what I mean?
I can
get it, right? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I see a guy who doesn't know who he is, who doesn't know where he fits in, who has found this level of success and gets this admiration and has these things that from the outside are amazing. You know, money and a career and interviews, and Sky Sports want to have a conversation, and then he gets the opportunity to go to Australia for a year. These are things that a lot of people would only dream of. Yeah. And yet you look in your eyes when you're giving those interviews and you just look lost, man.
Makes me want to, you know, sometimes when I don't watch them. I don't like watching them. And my girlfriend quite likes to watch it. Because she finds it funny to kind of tease me, but she loves watching the old version of me before she knew me and stuff. But for me, it hurts me. It's like, whoa, that poor guy. I just want to go back and give him a hug and tell him everything will be all right. And just keep going, man. Everything's aligned for you to uncover this stuff. And so it's like I want to go back and give him a hug, man.
Yeah.
It's quite painful to watch for me. It sounds like it was painful to watch for you, but no, it's cool, man. It's
I get it.
But it's amazing how you can sense that just from seeing earlier interviews, and now it's like I don't really have to sell myself now in terms of my public speaking and stuff. I think people that knew me before saw me kind of taking drugs and drinking excessively and prescription drugs midweek, and who I was and my behaviours, and this just big ball of. Did it get
that bad with the drugs when you were playing?
Yeah, when I was playing.
How did you manage that?
Yeah, I don't know.
That is so. I mean, the thought of that. I mean, I can liken it to my earlier years on TV as an actor. I would go out. Not just me. We would go out and party all night, and I'd roll up to the studio with scenes to do, dialogue to give. You know, people would point cameras at me. Yeah. The thought of that now makes me so unwell. Wow, the anxiety. I mean, you must have experienced that. You must have experienced walking into a dressing room and thinking, God, a few hours ago I was off my tits.
Yeah, man, definitely. I think the stress that I was under training at teams like Wigan, one of the best teams in the world, right? The way they train, they're renowned for just, you know, they train hard.
There's a big expectations there.
Yeah, like wrestlers like you the other side of this room, me here, 10-meter run up, sprint. Any hesitation, you're going again. Sprint into each other and just whack the shit out of each other, right? And you can't back down. It's just like fight to the death type stuff. And there's people like, you can hear people like gritting their teeth like, go on, get him. Like, it's brutal, man. It's brutal. But they're a physical team. That's why they're successful. They got whatever, right? The stress physically was enough for one human body to probably endure. And then the stress of kind of the come downs and the stress of my body trying to remove alcohol from my body, and the stress of me taking codeine and tramadol and diazepam midweek towards the back end when it got really bad. Like every night I needed to be high. Every night I didn't want to sit with myself. I lived in a house on my own with me and my dog, and bless my dog, he's been through the whole journey with me, and I love him to bits, man. He's
seen some shit, hasn't he?
He's seen the before and after. He's seen more than you've seen on them interviews, man. He must be so proud of me.
He's just shell-shocked.
yeah. Do you know, sorry, I will bounce between things, but do you know, when I think really deeply and really crazily, I feel like my dog has always been there, just teaching me everything about life. Like, my dog was abandoned. He's a rescue dog. I picked him up. He trusted me. He taught me how to trust in people after abandonment. He showed me unconditional love. He's taught me all these things, man. No matter how I've treated him when I used to go out and party and come back and not feed him and neglect him in a way, man, he still was willing to forgive me. And I'm like, whoa, man, you're teaching me forgiveness, trust, how to over. I'm like, it's like he was there to teach me stuff. I know it sounds crazy, but I love that little animal, man. He's so cool.
Unconditional friendship.
Yeah.
Unconditional friendship that you get from a dog. It's
my God.
one of the most beautiful things. I've ended up with 2 cats.
Have you?
Yeah.
I've seen that on your story. Where you were,
I mean, they tolerate me. At best. Yeah.
Well, you always want to play with them and stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm desperate. I want to grab their fluffy little heads and just want to give them a big. You can't. You mustn't. No. They will scratch your.
How do you hold back the urge, man? Because I know that. I know that.
They're so soft. Honestly,
I know that feeling.
It's ridiculous.
I've got a little 7-month-old now, and Kate's always like, he will wrestle with you one day. But he's 7 months old, and she's
going to come home one day and see you and the little one 10 yards away.
Yeah.
Going, you ready? You're running at each other.
This is what we used to do. Come on.
just bringing it back to your career, because I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
When you look back at your career, which was what, sort of 12, 13?
12 years. I think 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah, around that.
When you look back at your career, how does it make you feel? Because I feel like there's almost two Dans, and it feels like the Dan that I'm meeting now since you retired from the game, and you've done all this work on yourself, and you speak so well, and you have a real sense of who you are and where you fit in the world. And then the Dan who was the rugby star, and obviously the childhood before it. I feel like you can almost draw a line, and I think it's interesting because when you were playing rugby, I've seen you interview before, and you've mentioned this before. You never felt like you were quite enjoying everything. Is that probably fair? Yeah. I have that now. I get that a lot. I'm like, I should be enjoying this. Yeah. I need to make sure I'm enjoying this. And it becomes like a conscious thing rather than just enjoying things. So I guess what I'm asking is, when you look back on your career, is it fond memories? Is it tough times? Is it what's the overriding kind of feeling?
I think memories are cool, man, because however you interpreted them at the time as that version of you, you can go back and you can change that interpretation in a way, can't you? And so I definitely look back on it now with a completely different perspective as I did then. And I can laugh about certain things that used to... Sometimes the hostility of just 30 lads full of testosterone. You know, we've got an hour in between training, and the banter goes a bit too far. It turns into a big wrestle, and people are getting physical, man. And like some of the hostility in there, I used to be like, whoa, what am I doing? And then I'd turn on people and call people names, you know, just to protect my own insecurity sometimes. Jesus. And I look back on that now, and I'm kind of like, wow, I get what was happening there. But like, I look back now, and I'm like, what an amazing opportunity for me to kind of be in this arena with loads of other lads, and for me to overcome this stuff. Like, what better place to position myself in to overcome this sort of thing? Do you know what I mean? To really challenge my insecurities and people coming at me and whatever, and this fear of failure. What better opportunity to be in top flight sport to really work out, wow, I'm gonna achieve everything, because that was my mindset. I was always going to achieve what I wanted to achieve, no matter what. And then get to the end and go, wow, this wasn't everything I wanted, and do you know what I mean? Putting myself in that position to work that out quite early on, to kind of not to deter people from their dreams and success, but just to work on this and really appreciate ourselves along that journey. You know what I mean? Succeed and achieve things, definitely, of course. Like, set goals, why not? It's perfect. It gives us direction. It's amazing, but alongside it, work through the problems as well, and work through our behaviours and become a better version of ourselves every day. That cliche, there's no other way to put it. I've tried to put it a different way.
It's not a cliche.
Yeah, it's do you know
it's
what
not
I mean?
A cliche.
Just every day trying to become a little bit better. And I don't ever want to seem like, even from this podcast, I don't ever want to seem like I've got it all together. Man, I still have bad days. I have great days. Like, but now I'm learning the most important thing of all is to feel everything. And like, before I didn't want to feel certain things, but I wanted to feel joy. And it's like, I listened to Brené Brown. Brené Brown rings through my ears. It was amazing when I heard her say it. And it was like around selectively numbing. And it's like, you can't just selectively numb. You can't just numb sadness, guilt, shame, and expect to feel joy and the rest of these emotions. To feel these emotions, we have to feel these emotions. But we live in a world where no one wants to feel these, so we all sit in this middle ground, and then we wait for the weekend to kind of feel these big dopamine highs of alcohol and drugs and you know, cannabis or whatever it might be, or whatever these highs are, and we're happy sitting in the middle ground because we live in a world just like saturated with pleasure. Everywhere we turn, we can access pleasure. And it's like, strip all that pleasure back, start to feel some of this stuff, which is real hard, and find a support net where we can, and let's feel some of this stuff organically. Let's sit in these moments where you're saying, I sit in these moments and I feel guilty. We will naturally be able to feel them if we start to feel this a little bit more. But this don't come on your own. You can't. I hold my hands up. That none of this stuff I felt I could feel on my own. I had to feel safe. I had to feel in an environment where people really, really understood me. Not just listening to me and nodding and scrolling through Instagram while listening to me. You know, like,
yeah.
You know, I'll turn off. I'll be like, no, you don't deserve to hear my story. But when someone sits there like you, you're looking me in the eyes, and I can tell you're feeling everything I'm saying, and that's where I'm comfortable talking. That's where I'm comfortable speaking up, and that's where we can work through certain things.
It's amazing, man, that you've done all this work, and you've been on this huge journey, after you retire, because you hear so many stories about, especially sportsmen who retire, and it all just falls apart for them. They don't know what to do. They don't have the skill set. They don't have the mentality. You said a moment ago, you've always had that dedication, even when you were a teenager and you were drinking. You've always had that dedication to go, no, I'm going to be a professional rugby player. That's what I'm going to do. So you've always set yourself those goals.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I think a lot of people do, but because we're not, as you say, because we're not present, it doesn't have any substance behind it.
Yeah, man.
When you look back, are you? I mean, obviously you're proud of what you achieved. What's your kind of overriding? I guess what I'm asking is, what would you say to that Dan if you met him on the street, if you bumped into him, Dan from 15 years ago? What do you say to him?
I thought this maybe the other day, and I genuinely just, everything will be all right. Everything will genuinely be all right.
I'm the same. That's what I'd say.
And things will get worse. And even from where I might go back and speak to him, the week later, something might happen. I don't know, a friend walk out. I don't know where my mind's going there. But, like whatever happens following that, it's like the faith. It's like just having faith that you will one day overcome this, and you will get to where you want to get to. Just be patient and be dedicated and work out what obstacles are in the way, and just chip away, man. Don't try and solve everything at once. Just pick an area of your life and focus on that for a little bit. And if you feel yourself making a progression, then get addicted to that. Get addicted to that self-betterment. Do you know what I mean? And really celebrate that. Don't just take it for granted and go, all my career I've trained so hard and I achieved things, and it's like, what next? I'm looking around like, what next? It's like, I just won a grand final. Why do I not just sit there and bathe in that for like, why can I not just sit there and fully enjoy that and enjoy every moment that got me to that point? Like, we don't appreciate ourselves enough. We don't appreciate.
We put too much.
I'm speaking about just myself.
You're not just speaking about yourself. We put far too much pressure on ourselves. We're always in such a rush, first and foremost, and I think that's part of the reason why we don't appreciate the little wins and the little moments. I know I certainly don't. I'm always looking for the next thing. Right, I've done that. Park that. Right, what's next? Well, that guy over there that I'm comparing myself to, well, he's doing better than me. So how do I get to there? Right, okay, so I've got to do that. You're like, will you just chill the fuck out?
Yeah, man, it's a busy mind, isn't it?
Just live.
I know.
We're living in a really interesting time in the world right now. There's a lot going on. Yeah. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot to celebrate. Yeah. There's a lot of hardship. There's a lot of really difficult things going on out there. Yeah. It's hard. I think it's hard to pick up a newspaper. It's hard to turn on the news. Yeah. It's a depressing place.
Man. Yeah, definitely.
But amongst that, there's opportunities there. Podcasts. There's media. There's things that we can be doing, and you've just got to live your own kind of truth and your own existence. And I comparison being the thief of joy is
that.
I mean, I love that.
I love that. It's my favourite saying.
So true.
Yeah, it's how I live my life. It's how I lived my life negatively before.
Oh, and it feeds into gratitude, which I've started doing. I got heavily into. I bought my first gratitude journal about 3 years ago.
Cool.
And it changed my life.
Yeah, man.
It changed my life. Feeling grateful was something, because I'd been in this cycle of drink and drugs and partying and late nights and regret and shame and unhappiness and just I was a bad friend. I was I wasn't a bad person, but I was not a good friend. I'd stopped being grateful for the things that I had. I live in this beautiful city. I've got friends. I'm healthy.
I know.
Touch all the wood. And you don't celebrate these things. And when you start to write down things that you're grateful for,
focus on it, man.
Man, it changed it changed everything.
Yeah, it's so important. And I do feel like we live in a world where, I don't know if it's programmed into us, man, where we're told to achieve more, and whether it's like this materialistic, like kind of capitalistic world, you need money so we have to graft harder, and there's no time to sit back and enjoy these things because we need to earn more, we need to film, we need to go out and experience more. And really, some of the moments, like I'm feeling good now, this is amazing for me, but to get this sort of feeling 5 years ago, it would have included a substance. And it's crazy, isn't it? But what would you say would have the biggest benefit, like let's say for the world, let's say like individually, what could everyone do? What do you feel like is the low-hanging fruit for everyone? Do you feel like it's something like gratitude, everyone practicing gratitude, or do you feel like it's everyone learning to self-reflect? Do you feel like it's?
I think both of those.
Is it?
I think both of those two things. First of all, I agree. I think there is something that everybody could do. I think those two things go hand in hand. I think learning about yourself and being grateful in the process, those two things are intrinsically linked, and they're so important to our growth and our development, and also how we interact with people as well, because the world is so loud and it's so bright, and obviously you rightly say, this sort of capitalist gloom that kind of hangs over us. It's heavy.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But I think for us to be present in the moment as a society, especially as men, to be grateful for the things that we do have, I think would go an awful long way to helping us forge more connections. Because that's the other thing as well with it, is that when you are in your own head and when you are feeling at your wit's end, and there's maybe there is substances, maybe there's late nights, maybe there's depression or anxiety, whatever, you're just trapped in your own thoughts.
Definitely.
And you lose those connections.
100%.
They're the lifeblood. Is this space here? This is the most important thing that we can do. And I think learning about yourself, being grateful. I think the biggest thing that I did in a kind of physical sense was fixing my morning routine.
Was it? Cool.
Oh
cool,
my God!
I was going to ask what sort of things did you start doing then? Because you mentioned there wasn't really a catalyst. So did you start to just slowly, incrementally build things into your life?
Yeah, I did, because I got into health and fitness. First of all, I got into going to the gym. That was the big thing, was like, I have to do something. And the beautiful byproduct of working on your body and going to the gym, going for a run, whatever you do, is that I think you're less likely to then go to the pub at the end of the day or buy yourself a gram of cocaine or some weed or whatever your poison is, or maybe take some pharmaceuticals because you've spent that time in the gym. It felt to me, it just seemed ridiculous that I would be working this hard in the gym and then go and do that to myself.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was this lovely synergy between the two, and that started having a bit of an effect. But I realised that I was still anxious. I was still not good. And I read an article that a woman had written I think it was in the Observer. This is going back years ago, and she was talking about morning routine. And I realised that my morning routine was a car crash, man. My God. I was waking up, smashing a coffee, rolling a cigarette. I was on social media, on Twitter, with all this noise and this, and this hatred and this violence immediately, and this sex and all of this. And you're like, whoa, this is too much. This is too much. And now, look, I'm not perfect.
Of course, man. None of us are.
But I don't do those things anymore. I try and wait a little bit before I have a cup of coffee. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore.
Little things, man. Little wins.
Little bits of meditation now and again. Sit somewhere quiet for 20 minutes and gather your thoughts. Read a book. Get out of your own head. Get into something and see some wonder. Rather than waking up and ingesting caffeine, nicotine, pornography, drugs, whatever it is. You just have to, because if you start your day on a 5 out of 10, and something really shitty happens to you, or you have an anxiety attack or some bad news, you might go down to a 1 or a 2 mentally. But if you start your day at a 9 or a 10,
you're priming yourself for a better day then, aren't you?
You're giving yourself the best chance.
You're looking for that stuff you're grateful for.
And starting the day with gratitude, gives you a real sense of wonder, I think, in the world around you. I'm grateful for these trees, and I'm not to be all hippy dippy, but I'm grateful for these trees. I'm grateful for this beautiful place.
How crazy we immediately protect ourselves from being called a hippie or whatever. But shouldn't that be the norm?
Well, yeah.
It's like when people say they're going on a diet. Should the food they're not trying to consume to be better, should that not be the norm? And then people are eating junk food outside of that. Like, why do we have to say we're going on a diet to eat better? Why do we have to say, I'm not a hippie or anything, for appreciating the trees, man, that just amazingly, like, I don't know, communicate and produce oxygen and whatever, all this stuff. I don't know we can
I'm not quite there yet.
No, me neither.
We're all a work in progress.
Definitely, man, definitely. And I think there's many stages to the journey, though, isn't there? I don't know if you can relate to this, maybe, but I think, usually there's a big catalyst. There's a big catalyst for me, losing my little brother. Looking back, I had many other catalysts, and they incrementally kind of got a bit worse until I was like, wow, I can't. And there's many things within that if you wanted to unpack it, whatever. But yeah, the catalyst for losing my little brother was heart-wrenching, realising he was struggling with mental health, bottling it all up. And I was like...
How did he die?
My little brother, he fell or jumped from a 3-story building. No one... He rang us all 15 minutes before, 4 a.m. So, he was found with substances in his body. And so my little brother had already been diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenia, drug-induced. So he was quite heavy on the drugs. He was DJing. He was, and the people he was hanging around with, they were people escaping their emotions, and he found comfort in that. And such an amazing guy, though, man. Such an amazing guy. Like, just my absolute role model. Just someone on a daily basis that I just want to be more and more like.
Do you think about him a lot?
Yeah, man. I want to. Just such a beautiful soul, man. Like, experienced everything I experienced as a kid, and chose to forgive people, and chose to treat people the right way, and was just such an innocent, beautiful little soul. And in a weird way, man, I think he was there to show me that I could be that. I could experience everything he'd experienced, and I could still be that. I think he gave me the hope that I didn't have to be resentful towards people for treating me a certain way, or whatever I'd experienced. That didn't need to shape me in that way. Do you know what I mean?
And you're honouring him in the right way as well. Most importantly, you're honouring him in the right way.
Yeah.
You're living your life the right way. You're looking to the future. Your eyes are wide open.
Yeah.
Which is what he would have wanted.
Yeah. I get emotional before talk sometimes, because I'm like, wow, man. Like, I talk about my little brother in every talk, and I don't know. I just feel like everyone will say it when they've lost someone, but I genuinely feel like he's there with me, man. And he was the catalyst for all this, and. Yeah, it just drive. Obviously, I've got that internal drive to be better, but I know I'm doing it for him as well, and it's just amazing, man. The love is ridiculous, man. And once with grief, I think once you realise that love never dies, it's like something that can't be taken away. It's like in Interstellar. Do you like Interstellar? This is one of my big questions of a judge of character. I'm like, do you like Interstellar? Interstellar, my favourite.
Don't worry,
film.
I judge people on films as well.
do you? Oh, cool. My missus, me, favourite.
I've got one for you in a minute.
Have you? Oh, don't, man, because I don't watch too many, but I've got a few. Anyway, Interstellar, like love being the fourth dimension or whatever, and that I'm just like. It's amazing. It's something to do with the love for me and my little brother still exists, even though he's not here physically. And it genuinely feels like it's eternal. And down another rabbit hole, I always had this fear of death, this crippling fear of death all my life. I used to sit here sometimes speaking with people, and I'd just be like, why is he not thinking about dying? Why am I sat here about thinking about ceasing to exist one day? And he's chatting away about all this stuff, and why is he not struggling with this? And I used to struggle with it on a daily basis. It used to cripple me, yeah. And help me overcome that. Realizing that love felt eternal, and I was like, wow. So the love and the relationship I build with people in this life is eternal and will live on. And I'm like, wow, I found so much hope in that, and it really helped me to overcome my fear of death.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's so cool that you managed to take that tragedy and turn it into something so positive and something so spiritual as well.
Yeah, man.
Because I think it's so final. I lost my father a few years ago.
Yeah.
And that was what really, really struck me at the time. Was just I was like, is this it?
Yeah.
Is that it? What I can't believe everyone's just carrying on. Wow. How's everybody just carrying on?
Yeah.
Can we all just stop for a second?
Yeah, what, in your family or people?
No, just in general,
in
just the world.
Yeah, the world.
I wanted the world to just stop and go, hang on, can we just take a second? Because he's not here.
Yes.
And that was just the craziest thought to me. But now I only have nice memories, and I only have the warmth and the joy and the love there.
What was your dad like?
He was a prick.
I was not expecting that. I was expecting us to go down there. He was amazing.
No, he was a prick.
Was he? Man?
Yeah. He was a prick.
Wow.
But he had his good sides.
To you or to everyone or?
He was a complicated man. My father. He was a very complicated.
Nice way of putting
man.
it.
Yeah. I'll sit on the fence. He was very gregarious, outgoing. He could walk.
You're gonna have to give me what that word means, by the way.
Gregarious.
I'm just like a caveman rugby player.
Full of personality.
Oh, right, okay.
Huge. He'd walk into a room and he'd be the guy that everyone would go, oh, I want to talk to that guy.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, he was charm personified.
Wow.
But he had a very difficult. Him and my mother split up and got divorced, and it was very difficult for me and my brother were quite young, and our relationship with him was difficult. My relationship with him was very difficult over the years. Had periods where we were in touch a lot. And had a real bond, and then periods where we didn't see each other for a few years, and it never felt solid. It never felt how it should. And I had regrets about things that I wish I'd said and I wish I'd done. But I've parked all that now, and as I say, I only remember the nice times and the good memories. Yeah, it's important. It's important.
What was it based on? What was it based? You guys not connecting. What was it based on? Was you? How old was you?
I think I resented him.
Yeah.
I think I had a lot of resentment there.
Not understanding the full story.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, not wanting to go into.
Marriages fail. Marriages break down. People grow in different directions. People make mistakes. People do bad things. People cheat. People lie.
Definitely, man. Yeah.
It's part of the human experience. But I definitely had a lot of resentment there when I was growing up, unresolved things I hadn't spoken about. And it's only when I've got older and realised that actually he was just trying to figure it all out the same way as everybody else, and actually having resentment or holding a grudge towards somebody like that doesn't do anyone any good, doesn't do me any good.
No. I think personally, I think it's the same for you, but through understanding yourself, then you can start to really understand other people. Otherwise, he is just a prick for the rest of your life. But then you look back and you go, well, hang on, in some areas I was a bit of a prick, and this is why. And deep down, I always know I was a good person. So could he therefore be a good person with a load of trauma, so he appears as a prick? But if I look underneath, and I always wrestle with this, and I'm like, does that mean we can fully forgive him and let him get away with stuff? No, but we can forgive him and start to put firm boundaries in place. Say, do not allow. I won't accept this happening again. But I understand completely why you did this.
That's the most important thing, I think, is setting boundaries. And again, that only comes when you've been through that period of self-discovery. And you've been on a little bit of a journey, and you've maybe left some things in the past. That's when you can kind of turn that corner and go, actually, if you want to be in my life, that you have to fit within this.
This is the criteria.
Absolutely. I used to have a lot of I used to have a big circle of friends.
Man. I think we all have, haven't we? I think we've all tried to just accumulate friends and go, it's funny. Look, I'm popular, I'm cool, I'm good enough.
I'm popular, I'm cool, and we can all get wasted and do all that. And it's funny. Looking back now, I think I had nothing in common with these people whatsoever. And I think it's an experience shared by a lot of men, actually, that we fall into these habits. And actually, if you strip it back, we're all scared of being lonely. We're all scared of being on our own. We feel safer in numbers. We feel this kind of masculine energy that we all share. For yourself from your rugby playing days. But actually, when you strip it back, you're like, what have I got in common with these guys apart from getting fucked up?
I know.
And I don't want to do that anymore.
No.
So I can't be friends with you. My parameters have shifted. And you have to fit within my guidelines, or we're not going to be friends.
Painful part of life, and then letting friends go.
It is a painful part of life.
And something we all just want to cling hold of. And but I've known them for 10 years, and it's like,
Fuck
but
that.
they don't serve you.
Fuck that.
They and you tell them you don't want to drink, and if they know that's what's best for your mental health, and they still encourage you to drink, why?
They're
are
not
you
your
tolerating
friend.
that?
Well, they're not your friend.
Do you know
Friends
what I mean?
don't do that.
Do you know what I mean? But until you've experienced a real friend, and then you see the contrast and go, well, why does this guy accept it? And why does this guy actually want the best for me? And why does this guy celebrate everything I do? And when I meet this guy, why does he ask me so many questions and make me feel a certain way? I'm leaving this friend feeling amazing, and I'm leaving my friend I've seen for 10, 15 years,
Feeling
who I'm
awful.
best friends with. I've got this label attached to it, and I'm like, I'm not feeling anything. I'm feeling like, well, a bit of a waste of time. I'm like, there's no connection, and it hurts a bit, doesn't it? It's like,
It does. It's painful. It's painful because you've got all that shared experience.
Yeah.
But actually, that's you looking back. What I've done in the past and my history with these people doesn't necessarily have to influence my future. What does matter is what I'm going to choose to do right now or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Going forward, I can only look forward.
good mindset, man.
I can't look backwards.
Yeah.
Backwards is chaos for me.
Yeah.
Backwards is chaos. It's poor decisions. It's anxiety.
Yeah.
It's stress.
Yeah.
It's not living up to what I should and could be.
Your potential.
My potential,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely, yeah, and that's painful, man.
But all I can do is look forward. All I can do is affect what I'm going to do tomorrow. And I tell you what I'm not going to do tomorrow. And that's hang out with bad people and take drugs or drink. That's what I'm not going to do.
Yeah. Definitely. Do you feel like I try to really come up with a one size fit all, and obviously it's not possible, so many moving parts. But I would say with my mental health, the further I got away from who I was and my potential, so when I start to move in the other direction, my mental health would get worse. Now that could be a number of things, but the further I moved away from my potential, or the more my potential slipped away from me, the more I struggled with mental health. That's how I like to summarise it if I could use one sentence.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And if on a daily basis I was, drinking and accumulating, and I was moving away, it would get worse and worse and worse to the point where I couldn't get any worse without probably taking my own life or something, And
well, it's the universe. It's not to speak too broadly on it, but there is a plan for you. There is a plan. You have to believe that.
Definitely.
And if all you're doing is getting in your own way, then of course your mental health's going to struggle because you're straying off the path that the universe has for you.
What do you say to someone who says, "What do you mean the universe has got a plan for me?" How do you?
Well, I ask him if you've got to have faith in something.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting, I'm not a spiritual guy. I don't practice religion.
But if you believe the universe got a plan for you, there's
absolutely.
an element of this awe and wonder of
Faith.
Yeah,
It's faith.
Something. Yeah, it's something bigger than you, isn't it?
Something bigger than me. I have faith.
Yeah.
I have faith that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm putting out into the universe good vibes, for want of a better word. I'm trying every day to be a good person. I'm trying to be a good boyfriend. I'm trying to be a good son. I'm trying to be a good colleague. I think if you're putting all that out into the universe, I think you've got to trust that you're going to get something back.
Yeah, and I think it's important. Trust the faith that everything's going to be okay. Not letting that over. Sometimes we can let that override our emotions. We're feeling really upset. We're feeling a dense emotion, and it's like everything will be okay. And so we kind of smother it in positivity, and it can still be a secret way of just pushing it aside and going, I don't need to feel that because I'm going to be okay. It's great to kind of build that resilience of like, right, I'm going to feel this emotion. On the other side of it, I'm going to start to feel better. But primarily, I need to sit back. I'm not meeting you today, mate. I got no time or energy. If you don't accept that, a true friend will say, yeah, sort yourself out. Oh my God, we'll meet next week. Sit there, someone you trust, whatever you do, paint, write, journal. Do whatever you want, feel that emotion, process it, move through it, gain the wisdom extracted from whatever life's trying to show you, and move on. And meet your mate next week and have a great time. Do you know what I mean? It's that process, isn't it? It's
I do. It's not avoidance. It's the opposite of avoidance.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that avoid feeling things and avoid journaling and avoid sitting with these difficult emotions and these difficult experiences. I mean, we've both lost people close to us. We know what grief feels like. Yeah. I'm not saying put that to one side and go, it doesn't matter because the universe has a plan. That's not what we need to do.
Beautiful.
It's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
We need to feel more.
Definitely.
We need to to understand more.
Definitely.
We need to read more. We need to speak more. We need to listen more. That's the big one.
Mate.
And then when we do all these things, only then can we go, it's cool.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine.
I know, man. I know. I hope you didn't feel like I was...
No, not at all. No,
Good,
I just wanted to add.
Because I wanted to clarify that for anyone listening. And then we'll go away and go, okay, I'm going to try and apply this faith and everything's going to be okay. And just because obviously I can see you're living by that, really important for people to be clear on that, isn't it? And find that alongside. But that combination, that's a beautiful combination. You start to build that as a habit. Oh my God. Because life's full of ups and downs. But if you can build that habit of when you're going through that, you have your faith alongside a safe environment to feel things, you can work through everything. And, life will start throwing harder things at you. And, it will think...
Test you.
Yeah, and it will think, do you know what? I'm going to throw this at you, but the amount you're going to learn off the back of this is going to be huge. The amount of people you can help off the back of that. But this is your journey. So let's go. Let's put you in this situation and boom, whatever happens, man.
It's a mindset. It's a mindset.
Definitely, man.
It's a mindset. You the arms of fear and pain, or the arms of love and understanding, and a real depth of caring and emotion for our fellow man.
Definitely.
It sounds quite basic when you lay it all out like that, but it really is. It really does come down to exactly what you just said, which is sitting with these emotions, going through this pain, going through these feelings, but knowing in the back of your mind that everything's going to be okay, and it's been sent there as a lesson and a challenge. Definitely. For you to grow as a human being, because otherwise, if we don't have any bad experiences, if everything's easy, then what the fuck's all this for?
I know.
We're not. None of us are going to grow.
I know, man. I know. And we're here to experience it all, aren't we? We're here to experience it all.
Yeah,
we realise that eventually.
Absolutely. Do you speak to other guys like this in your friendship group? Do you have? Do you?
Yeah, I'm kind of known as that guy. Like,
Oh, yeah.
if you go near,
fucking hell, Dan's coming.
Yeah, it's gonna get deep. Oh, he's too deep for me. I'm like, what's the matter with you? This is real life. I'm talking real life. I can sense when you don't want to go there, and I'll back off, and we'll talk about the weather, and we'll talk about your dog, and it's been to the groom. Let's talk about that stuff. Like,
I bet they love it.
Yeah, man,
I bet they love it.
I think so.
I bet one-on-one. I bet they love it.
Yeah, I think people know now. I think at first when I retired, everyone was like, by the way, the retirement thing. I walked away from the sport at 29, like fit and healthy, and in the international 40-man squad the year before, and still in the England setup and stuff, and still at a high level, being paid the most I'd ever been in the UK. So it was the highest income I'd been on.
Wow.
I kind of got to the end of my career where you become a senior player, so you got a bit more authority, and you all look forward to that when you. So
you're the James Milner.
Yeah, I was kind of at that stage. Yeah, that I'd always wanted to be at. I'd always been like washing the shakers and doing all the chores as a young kid. I want to be a senior. And I got to a senior, and I was like we're saying again earlier, I just, I was driving into training, and I was like, some mornings I was crying, man. I was like, I just don't feel right. And I was like, am I depressed, or am I just not doing the right thing? And so I started to clear up everything in my life and start to tick things off and go, right, I've worked through this, and I've still got this feeling. And I don't want to admit it's probably the rugby, but it didn't have the same meaning for me in the end. I knew since losing my little brother, I was like, I'm driving to work every day, and I'm driving past schools, and I'm driving past people, and I can see sadness in people, and I'm just like, I could potentially not heal them or help them, but I could maybe inspire them to look inwards a little bit. And what can I do? I knew I could offer a little bit more, and every day I was driving to work and just kind of ignoring the problem at hand, and like we're saying, humanity, and watching the news and being, not that I can solve anything on the news, mate, you can't, but I was just watching a problem get worse and worse in my mind, and I wasn't really actively doing anything about it. And I thought I had to really sit down and work out.
That's
what
hard.
I walked away early, man.
That must have been quite a lonely experience for you, especially as you say, being one of the seniors. So people are looking up to you, and people are coming to you for advice. Young players, coaches are probably speaking to you and going, Dan, we want to try this. What are your thoughts on this? People are, there's a responsibility there.
Yeah, of course.
And you're driving into work in the morning in tears and feeling empty and low and thinking, is this it? I mean, you paint a really bleak picture.
I know, man. Yeah, no, it was. And my girlfriend was amazing, man. She really supported me through it. She was like, if you don't want to do it, listen, let's not do it. I'll support you in whatever you want to do. And I needed that because I was going into the CEO and I was saying, listen, I was pouring my heart out, I was being super vulnerable and going, I can't do it, man. I can't get up for this. And you need to be up for this. When you're sprinting into 18 stone blokes, man, you need to be up for it. You can't go in half-hearted, right? So I could always turn that on. I'm very competitive. I could always turn it on, but it was exhausting. It was using twice as much energy as anyone else was, because I had to overcome my mind and then get into that state and become competitive. So I was going in and the coach was like, what are you doing, mate? Like, people didn't understand me outside of the sport. They were just trying to understand me as a rugby player and going, well, 29, international, most like
they only
really well.
they only see statistics, don't they?
Of course.
They see how far you can run, how fast you can run.
Yeah, mate.
What
I'm still like the fittest in the team.
What your resting heart rate is.
Of course.
They don't give a fuck.
No, man, it wasn't the feelings that come with it. And so I tried to lay all that out there, and they're like, this is alien language. It was like I was speaking an alien language in a masculine environment where people were like, whoa, he's gone mad. I hadn't gone mad. I was just coming back to who I was. And there were so many people detached from who they was. So they couldn't comprehend or understand what I was experiencing. And
wow.
Yeah, man, it was so isolating. And the CEO was like, mate, what are you doing? Everyone's talking me out of it. And I'm like, I'm expressing that I feel this way. And this is what's not causing me to feel this way, but I would feel a lot better if I moved away and did something a bit more meaningful. Everyone's talking me into continuing doing this and feeling this way, as if to say, carry on. Like, what's the matter with you? Like, oh my God, have you gone mad? Are you all right? Do you need to see a counsellor? I'm like, no, I'm fine.
No, I'm fine.
I
just need to stop doing this.
This ain't good for me, man.
You're making me unhappy right now.
And it was a lot of things, man. It was like 10 plus concussions and shoulder dislocations and, all these injuries and many operations.
Well, yeah, you were running at 10 stone blokes, full pelt. I mean, what the fuck did you think was going to happen?
10 stone would be nice, bro.
Sorry.
Yeah, some of them are carrying 10 stone on their upper body, bro. Like,
Jesus
these Tolman and Samoan geezers, man, they're not small humans. Like, I don't know if you've seen these guys, man.
You've got to be a proper kind of psycho
you got to, man.
to do that, man.
My theory, like, I do have theories on it, man. And, like, not everyone, but I feel like, especially me, I feel like you have to have an element of trauma to put yourself in such a physical, demanding environment and push yourself in that way. There has to be sometimes there has to be an insecurity driving that. For me, it was I didn't feel good enough. So I had to win every fitness, I had to win every wrestle, I had to, and it was the shame
had
that
to
was
be stronger, be tougher, be faster, be the best.
Yeah, because
and
if
you
I
did.
wasn't, yeah. So if I wasn't, I fell short. It would reinforce the message that I wasn't good enough. So my whole performance was driven by shame, which was unhealthy, which is why I struggle with mental health and why I didn't enjoy any moment. But if it can be driven by other things, if we can sit back and work through the shame and go, okay, I'll keep this.
Imagine if you right now had the fitness that you had 10 years ago with your mindset right now.
No, I'm tempted.
You're going to get back in the gym.
Mate, I get tempted, man. I'll get tempted.
You're going to come out of
80 kilos now.
Come out of retirement.
Yeah, mate. I say it to Kate. I'm like, if I didn't have as many concussions, I'd go back and I'd prove to people that well-being and performance are completely entwined.
You'd enjoy it so much as well, wouldn't you?
Man. And I would, and I know I would lift the team in a different way because I'd be able to sit down and have this conversation. They'd be able to release certain emotions. They'd be able to release certain stress, enable them to recover a little bit better because stress on a cellular level doesn't know if it's mental or physical. Like we can't recover. It just feels like we're in the gym doing something physical, creating physical stress, like mental stress, physical stress, emotional stress. It's just stress. So I wasn't recovering. I was never recovering. I was always heavy, fatigued, and I was still playing international, mate.
You were still winning trophies.
I know,
is what you were
man,
doing.
I
Dan.
know.
That's wild.
I know, and so I want to go back, and like eventually I will go back. And
would you do coaching?
I'd love to, man. I just love the freedom I've got at the moment. Like,
I think you'd be great though. I think you working with young players would be great, man.
Yeah.
With this authenticity that you've discovered and that you're living, I just think from a physical standpoint, obviously you've got this wealth of knowledge of the tactical awareness, the physicality, but then to be able to impart this onto young players.
I know, man. I should be my agent. You're bigging me up.
20%.
20%.
Yeah, man.
That's heavy, man. Ooh, I get tempted by a lot of things, man. I feel the more I understand myself, I'm like, when I retired, I was like, I could probably only go one or two directions. Now I completely realise all my strengths. I celebrate all of my strengths. I'm like, I can do anything. And people go, people might listen to it and go, oh, he's pretty arrogant towards the back end, saying he can do anything. It's self-belief, man. It's self-belief. I know I could put my mind to anything, and I know fundamentally I can connect with people. So even if I'm not good at something, I've got the ability to receive feedback from people, and so I will always grow. Yeah. The only reason sometimes we can't receive feedback is because there's shame inhibiting that. If someone says, oh, I'll take it as a personal attack and I'll come back at them, and we create this environment like, this is business, this is life, this is family, this is everything. This is working on ourselves, leadership teams of businesses down to rugby players, to actors, whatever it might be, anyone in any parenting, whatever it might be, it's all human connection. And the more we self-reflect and understand ourselves, understand other people, the more we can build these connections. We can do whatever we want to do, man. And we've all got beautiful gifts, and it starts to just really unravel that and bring that to the surface for you to just explore and just. It sounds better said than done. That someone's struggling at home to listen to me going, "Shut up, mate."
you heard this guy.
Is it as simple as that? It's a process,
mate,
man. It's a process.
Honestly, you seem like you're winning. You really seem like you're winning. It's beautiful to be in your presence and to see someone that's been through so much. Living in Australia must have been mad. I know you had a lot of injuries when you were out there. That must have been dark as fuck.
Yeah.
Your brother dying. You battles with feeling shame. Shame's really heavy.
Dense,
shame weighs really heavy.
And it just like feels like it takes your soul out of you for a minute.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you experienced shame quite something?
Shame's actually, touch wood, shame's not something that I'm that familiar with. What was the process that you came to for dealing with that and for parking that and for understanding it? Was there anything that happened? Was there a breakthrough? Was there
the shame stuff? I didn't even really understand. Looking back, I don't think that I knew the word existed a couple of years ago. I was thrown about, but shame on you or whatever it might be. But I think, again, it was grabbing a behaviour and going, right, sometimes when someone proves me wrong, I get this kind of feeling. Now, what is this feeling? I feel anger, but there's something else there. And getting familiar with what was arising was like, whoa, it's this shame, and this is what makes me defensive. Because if someone proves me wrong in front of other people, it kind of makes me feel inferior and not good enough. So then I come back, and even if I'm wrong, I'll double down.
Wow.
And I'll start to get personal, and then I'll start to feel guilt.
So you've set yourself these ridiculously high standards that if you don't live up to them, or if somebody's above your high standard, you feel inferior, weak, full of shame.
Yeah, and that's what got me to the top of my game in rugby. Can you see how shame?
Yeah, I
drives
can,
you now?
100%.
Because if I lose a wrestle to you, say if everyone stood round, we used to do it in front of people. We used to do the whole team stood round, 2 people in the middle, just like wrestle till the other person's on the back. I was never losing, mate. I would do anything within my power. I wouldn't start eye gouging and fishing, that, but mate, I would like, it was as if my body activated something else. Like, if you speak to anyone within the rugby world, it's like, some people have said like he's the most competitive person I've ever seen, and it was kind of unhealthy because, again, if I went back and talked to people, I'd be like, right, let's keep this competitive element. Let's associate. Let's work out the shame element driving that. Let's keep an aspect of that because you've got that now. You've proven that. But I was taking it off the field as well. So then I was going to dinner and I was sitting opposite someone who I'd wrestled with and was taking it personally, like as if to say, you were challenging me earlier. Like, do you know that kind of like toxic? But
it's so unhealthy.
Do you know what I mean, man? But I was never a bad person.
No.
I know you're not, but I knew I was never a bad person. So that contrast again was what was contributing towards my mental health. Because I was like, I don't want to be angry at you, but I don't know what's driving this. I don't understand the emotion driving this. It's only now I can look back.
And being in that hyper masculine environment as well, where there is I imagine very little forgiveness and very little honesty and very little vulnerability. Very little vulnerability. You can't show any vulnerability.
It's used, man. Because
they'll pounce on you, right?
Definitely, man. Definitely. And it's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's a crazy world. But I never want to sound like I'm downplaying that work. Like, there are some everyone's amazing in there, man. They're all amazing to get to where they've got to and to train as hard as they're doing. And
they deserve respect.
They're phenomenal athletes, bro. And we're so underpaid. Like the union, boy, like, just to get a bit political on it. Like, man, for what, like, I would say pre-season is harder than any other sport. And, you know, like, still getting paid well. Like, people can listen to this. People still getting paid well, but, like,
relatively.
Nothing like...
Not for what you're doing.
Union or football or, you know... Crazy, but it keeps you humble in a way, man. It keeps you humble in a way, and I think it's a perfect blend of experience in professional sport and a bit of fame in a way, but really staying grounded. I think it's beautiful looking back. I'm like, I wouldn't have wanted all that money. Where would I have gone to? How much would I have messed my body up? Would I have done something bad? Like, you know, chasing the highs, man. I don't know how high. Like, my threshold for pleasure as well would be so high. Imagine having a jet ski every weekend and all this sort of stuff. Like, there'd be nothing left to do now. I'd be like twiddling my thumbs going, I'll have to meditate till I die. You know what I mean? Like, there'd be no other.
What's he doing? Oh, he's meditating.
Yeah.
He's been there hours. I just think the world deserves more Dan in their lives, because I think you're fascinating. I think you talk really, really well. I've loved hearing all about your journey and the things that you've improved and the changes that you've made and the story that you tell. I think it's fascinating, and I'm so thrilled that you came in today. Thank you so much, mate.